It is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and RFK Jr. declaring war on Big Pharma this morning. The CDC announcing huge changes to the COVID jab schedule. We've heard rumors this was coming, and it was true. Something that has Big Pharma and their stooges in corporate media losing their minds over. Wait till you see this. Also, is President Trump aware of what's really happening in Russia and Ukraine? Does he know what kicked off Putin's escalation, the assassination attempt? You'd assume he does, right? Maybe not. We said yesterday, expect a major ramp up in this war, and it's happening. Unbelievable. We'll show you. And President Trump canceling all federal contracts and funding with Harvard, pulling $3 billion in federal dollars, and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So we've been hearing for weeks that Secretary of Health RFK Jr. was working to radically change the jab schedule. We've been hearing about this for a while with no confirmations from Kennedy's office. Nothing official had come out in that regard, but the rumors continued. Well, it's true. This morning, RFK Jr. announcing via a post on X that the CDC will no longer recommend the COVID jab for children or for pregnant women. Watch.
All right, there's more breaking news coming into the Situation Room right now. The COVID vaccine for healthy children and pregnant women will shortly be removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Here's what the HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., just posted on social media.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary, and I'm here today with NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary. I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today. It's common sense and it's good science.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
We're now one step closer to realizing President Trump's promise to make America healthy again.
As of this morning, there are 3 COVID jabs currently available for use in the U.S. One from Pfizer, one from Moderna, and one from a company called Novavax. Pfizer, the largest, the most influential, with vast, deep pockets and political connections. They've been all over this. It's how we partly knew this could be coming, because pharma lobbyists had been crawling Capitol Hill the last few weeks, pressuring senators to steer Kennedy away from doing this, putting major pressure on him. It took the CDC a long time to get these jabs added to the schedule in the first place. It took them years. Years. It was in February 2023, I believe, when children 6 months to 4 years and pregnant women were added. Getting the jab added to the schedule's not so easy, so you better believe it. They've been fighting like hell to prevent this change from happening, and their mouthpieces in corporate media this morning losing their minds over this. Here's just a taste of what you'll hear. Watch.
All right, let's go live right now to CNN medical correspondent Meg Terrell. Meg, what more are you learning about this?
Yeah, Wolf, I mean, this is a continuation of the policy change we heard about from FDA last week as it pertained to updating COVID boosters. Typically, we've been doing that in a seasonal fashion, the same way we do for flu shots. But last week, the FDA leadership put out a new framework where essentially that system would remain the same for people over the age of 65 and those with underlying health conditions, putting them at higher risk for severe COVID-19. But they were saying they wanted to require clinical trial data for essentially everyone else. Now we're hearing they are going to remove the COVID vaccine from the childhood immunization schedule and the recommendation for healthy pregnant women to receive the vaccine as well.
The FDA announced just last week that the department would make changes to the COVID vaccine approvals that might limit future shots to seniors and those who are at higher risk of infection. Healthy adults and kids will likely lose access. I want to bring in Dr. Paul Offit, director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and a member of the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Offit. First, your reaction to this new guidance on COVID-19 vaccine boosters.
I think it's a bad recommendation. I mean, you certainly know that by 6 months of age, all children will be vulnerable to a virus that is continuing to circulate. There have been retrospective studies looking at children, meaning people less than 18 years of age, who've gotten a yearly vaccine to show that there is benefit. So it doesn't make sense. I think it puts children unnecessarily in harm's way. And there have been about 1,000 deaths from COVID during this pandemic in children. About 1/3 of those deaths were in children who were perfectly healthy before that. So I think it's a bad idea. Also, I don't like it that they didn't consult advisory committees. They didn't consult the public. They just went behind closed doors and made this decision unilaterally from a man, RFK Jr., who said that he believes in transparency, and he said that he won't take vaccines away from anybody who wants them, and he's done neither of those things.
So the usual protocol is for you and other members of the agency that deals with, or the advisory committee rather, that deals with vaccines, to be at least consulted and perhaps approve such a change?
Right. So normally this would go up in front of the advisory committee for immunization practice, which currently recommends vaccines for children and recommends a yearly dose. If they're arguing that shouldn't be done, then it's that committee that should do that.
And look, we've been waiting for something to happen on this for months. Kennedy, before his confirmation hearings, was a chief critic on these COVID jabs. He walked back some of his critiques during the confirmation process, but we knew this was something he firmly believes had to be changed, and he's done it. In another story, President Trump has paused the 50% tariffs he threatened against the EU last week. Writing on Truth Social this morning, I was extremely satisfied with the 50% tariff allotment on the EU, especially since they were slow walking, to put it mildly, our negotiations with them. Remember, I am empowered to set a deal for trade into the U.S. if we are unable to make a deal or are treated unfairly. I have just been informed that the EU has called to quickly establish meeting dates. This is a positive event, and I hope that they will finally, like my same demand to China, open up the EU for trade with the United States. They will both be very happy and successful if they do. And what Trump's talking about here is, why in the world is European Union's cars and autos and other products allowed to be sold in the United States tariff-free, but we can't sell our cars and auto parts into the EU? It makes no sense. Dems in the media trying to paint this as Trump flip-flopping, being indecisive on trade and decision-making. That's not what this is. This is Trump in real-time negotiation. He uses the power of the bully pulpit to keep things moving forward. Like he said this morning, he would have been happy rolling out that 50% flat tariff on the EU, but since they got back on track after he announced that, he's agreed to hold off for now. This is how real negotiation works. If previous presidents did this or something like it in the past, I doubt we'd even be in this mess. In another story, the neocons in D.C. jumping with joy after Trump calling out Vladimir Putin yesterday. Trump telling reporters that something is wrong with Vladimir Putin. Something has happened to him. He's not the man he's known for a long time. Watch what Trump said yesterday. Then we'll tell you what may really be going on. Watch.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it. Go ahead.
Then Trump following up a few minutes ago, posting on Truth Social, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. Now, in yesterday's video, we went into how all the escalation that we've seen in the last week in Ukraine followed that assassination attempt on Putin. Does Trump know this? I'd assume he does. Is it possible his aides are keeping him in the dark? We know they did that during Trump 1.0. I doubt Tulsi Gabbard's doing that. It's all very odd. What we do know for sure is that Ukraine's mass drone attack last week on Putin's helicopter and on Kursk has had the desired effect. It's completely unraveled the peace process, pushed Putin into massive retaliation, pushed him to completely pull out of the peace talks with Trump and the West, and it's appeared to get Trump to sour on Russia. Now, we have Germany this morning green-lighting Ukraine to strike Russia with German weapons. German Chancellor Merz authorizing the use of German missiles for strikes against Russia on Russian territory, something they've refused to do until now. All of this being kicked off because Ukraine's drone attack, mass drone attack last week. That's how fast wars can spiral out of control. Now, we know Trump wants peace. He's been doing everything he can to bring an end to this war, but everyone else doesn't. It's looking like this may be the first job too big for even Trump to handle. In another story, President Trump set to cancel all federal contracts with Harvard University, as well as directing all agencies to put Harvard on a blacklist, to not consider them at all for any future grants. This will mean that Trump's pulled almost $3 billion tax dollars from Harvard, and good riddance. Watch.
The Trump administration canceling all these remaining government contracts with Harvard, $100 million worth.
Yeah, it's a lot of money there, and those are the remaining federal grants. So essentially what we know is that the administration is expected at any moment, as soon as this afternoon, to send a letter to federal agencies telling them to cancel all of their existing federal contracts with Harvard. But it actually goes further than that. It tells them to not consider Harvard, but consider other options in the future instead of Harvard, which would effectively kill the entire grant program with the federal government. Now, I want to read you part of the letter that CNN obtained. This is what's expected to go out. It says, "We recommend that your agency terminate for convenience each contract that it determines has failed to meet its standards and transition to a new vendor." It says, "Going forward, we also encourage your agency to seek alternative vendors for future services where you had previously considered Harvard." Agencies have time, but just until June 6th to respond with what cancellations they have actually done. And remember, Wolf, as you guys have just noted, this is just the latest in an ongoing escalation. I want to take a look at what we have seen from the White House, from the administration when it comes to Harvard, really for the last month here. Starting back in April 14th, they froze $2.2 billion in grants. April 15th, they threatened Harvard's tax-exempt status. April 17th, they demanded international student records. May 13th, they froze another $450 million in funding. May 22nd, they moved to bar international students. May 26th, they considered redirecting $3 billion from Harvard to trade schools. And then, of course, May 27th, we're here where we are expecting this White House to send this letter, the GSA, General Services Administration, to send this letter to federal agencies to cut those remaining federal contracts. So clearly an escalation here. Of course, as we know, Wolf, the administration has accused Harvard of having liberal bias, of allowing anti-Semitic behavior on campuses, among other things.
Harvard and the other Ivy League universities are some of the most profitable organizations on the planet. They have endowments in the tens of billions of dollars, together hundreds of billions of dollars. Harvard has a $53.2 billion endowment, $53 billion just sitting in their coffers. So why exactly are they using our money? The money that middle-class America is paying in taxes goes to Harvard. Why is the federal government sending our tax dollars to them? It's ridiculous. This comes as Harvard still refuses to cough up foreign student records. Trump administration demanding those records on all foreign students to screen for what Trump calls troublemakers. Harvard refusing, suing the Trump administration. Well, good. Then don't expect another penny of our tax money. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.